Hey there, everybody. Robert Taylor with Wonderscape Creations, continuing on with my Wonderscape Worlds Toolkit, announcing the scriptable tools that have been added and created for your convenience to make the whole setup and the whole process a lot more smooth and quick. So, first thing you're going to need to understand is it does require two plugins, the Scriptable Tools Editor Mode and Scriptable Tools Framework. Once you turn those on, you'll obviously have to restart it. It'll show down here in the bottom right corner, requesting a restart. And then once you do, you're going to have this new drop down, or this new mode in the mode drop down called Scriptable Tools. And upon opening it up, we have a whole slew of tools. Now, unfortunately, for some reason, there's no way to order in which these groups spawn. So I put a number next to them. We'll go over 0 last because it's not significant to the actual process. So you have right here the designer tool and the spline tool. The designer tool here in Wonderscape General Tools is for setting up each of the volumes. So if you're creating your own level designer volume to whatever size you have, this one is obviously the 4K height map. I have 5 at this point, but say you want a 3K height map, so you have to make something custom. This is what would help you set this up without you having to do a whole bunch of work. So essentially, you would choose which landscape. It will automatically pick the first one it finds. So if you only have one, great. If you have several, then you'll need to go in there and find the correct one so it knows which one to attach it to. You'll need to choose, let us know the landscape resolution. So if you come here to landscape, you'll see right here, overall resolution is 4033. So I would set this to 4033. Landscape scale, it follows the X and Y scale. And as you can see, this is set at 100. So I would keep it at 100. And then the designer bounds is currently at 30,000. I usually do 45 to 55,000. Once I get to these larger size, 4K, 8K, that's what deals with the Z side of this whole situation. And then whether you want it to extend slightly out, use the XY size buffer. This is only necessary. Well, it's not even necessary. This is only needed when creating the landscape shape. So that's all you need to know for that. And that's the general information for this scriptable tool. You then have 3 options here. The world designer, which is what we see right here. If you want to generate it, you would check mark it. Choose a foundation height map if you want. There's plenty to choose from, obviously. I mean, there's a whole library of them. If we just come here, I'll just stick with the 2K. You've got everything you can choose from if you want a specific foundation. So really convenient, really nice to have. I want to make sure everybody had access to that, and then you can choose that. And then as soon as you click in this window, it will spawn this for you. And if it has a height map, it'll also take care of that for you as well. I won't go over this specific tool specifically, the world designer, because I go over it in a previous video. And then it works the same way with the biome designer, except, instead of a height map, you're choosing one of these. Obviously, you can create your own. Again, I've gone over that in the past. If you check mark it and then click, it'll spawn it. Same with the material capture. You'll let us know whether it's world partition, and then if you want it, you'll check mark it, click it, and it will place everything for you how you want. Now that's the designer tool. Excuse me. Now this spline tool, for now, works in both the biome and world setting, which is why it's in general. Right now, I have 2 instances where it one where it works and one where it's not working in the biome side of things. So it's up in the air right now whether what the issue is. I'm trying to figure that out. But for the landscape, it works. So you would just, choose one of these, and I'll go ahead and show this one off. We'll go with this one, biome data asset. We don't need because it's for the biomes. We're in the landscape. And then distance between points, trace sphere size. Let's get in a bit closer here. Here, let's make this even bigger. Not 25 plus, 25. There we go. So that you can see where it's going to be. Then I'll go ahead and I'll make this 55. Now, for most of these tools, it is drag and click. And for this one, you click and drag. And as you can see, it is placing points. As soon as I let go, it's spawned the actors to be utilized. Now, it is extremely important to note that say you are placing these and you decide you don't want to do it, just hit escape, goes away. Removes all of that information. So that is how the general spline works. I'm going to go ahead and remove it. It's not necessary. Now then with that, we will go on to step 2, which is the Wonderscape World Designer tool. If I click on this, this works here in the World Designer, which is why it says World Designer Tools. We have a couple splines here. Works pretty much identical, but I'll go ahead and do this. 5 so that we can see them. We're going to go with 9,500 this time. And then when I let go, it'll finish the spline for me because it's a loop spline and spawn the stamps that you have selected in this data asset. Again, same thing. If you're tracing and you say you don't like the shape, hit escape, everything will go away. Now on to step 3. This allows you to pick specific stamps. Obviously, you can find them directly here in the blueprints section. Come here, choose Canyon, and you can choose them this way if you choose. The other option is this. In the general, you can choose from all of the stamps to utilize. And then for the rest of them, it's a randomizer. So you choose which stamps you want. In the mountains, you can only choose from mountains. So I'll go ahead and I'll put a couple in here. Oh, I don't want to create a new one. And then this one. So as you can see here, we have a mountain showing up. Hit shift, it's going to change to another one. There's only 2, obviously. And it's randomized, so it doesn't go through the list one by one. So sometimes the shift won't do anything if there's only 2 of them. Obviously, if you're in a map that's far too large, check that off, and you'll only get the image, which is quite convenient. And then you can determine its size to start off with. Now then, each of these stamps have all of this information. And if you want to change this before you spawn them, you can check mark this and then make the changes there, and it will make these changes live before it spawns them. That way you don't have to worry about it. Now, the way that the click and drag features work with this one is if I click, it's here. If I start dragging around, it's going to rotate it in a circle. If I hold down shift and start dragging, it's going to change the size. Get this where I want it. It's important to re-rotate after you do the size because for some reason it resets the rotation. I haven't figured out why yet. But yeah, then you place it and there you go. There it is. And it randomizes between all the stamps. Obviously, because there was only 1 this time, it kept the one that is currently there. So, if I click on this, make it a little bigger, rotate it a bit. There we go. We have the second stamp finally showing up. So that is how all of the Wonderscape stamp tools work. I'm going to go ahead and remove these real quick. Now on to the next step, which is the Wonderscape Biomes Designer Tools. There are 4 of them. You've seen stuff like this before all over YouTube. You have the Biome Spline and the Exclusion Spline. Clicking on it, you choose which biome you want it to be. It's not going to work in this level specifically because this does not have the Biomes Designer in the level, but it's exactly the same. You choose what you want. The Z extents, so how far up and down it looks to spawn things. Distance between points is when you're spawning the spline, and the trace sphere size, again, when you're spawning the spline itself. Same goes with the exclusion, except you can only, determine the size and the distance between the points. Mesh, again, uses the exact same asset, only it will only spawn one item, and it'll be from the first, from the first index within the data asset. So let's go ahead and open this one. So that means it would spawn this sapling 01 in that spot where you place it. It's important to note that with how my system works, as soon as you place it, it's not going to spawn there immediately. It will do the PCG work so that it knows that it's there, but then you'll need to hit escape to go out, click on the asset, jiggle it a little bit, and it'll spawn. Haven't figured out why it works that way, but I'm trying to narrow down that bug. But it does work otherwise. And then assemblies. So whether you want the assembly that's being projected, being spawned to be projected to the landscape, or using a landscape patch to bring the landscape to the assembly, up to you. And then you can choose the assembly. This will actually work because it has its own graph in there. So I can go ahead and we'll stick with projected. I can place it right there with how tiny it is. It spawned, and there's the assembly. Obviously, if I go ahead and I click on here again, you'll see that it looks different because I'm using assembly logic, which is found in this graph. So you can change the graph, change the mega assembly data asset to your desires. So that is everything involving that stuff. And then the final thing, 0, the world options. This is going to be your friend when there are issues. So in here you have console commands, so you can increase your streaming pool, update the, and then you can choose the pool size that you want to update to. Update PCG cache if there are issues, update grass cache if you're having issues there, if you have your grass directly within your material. It's not showing up in this one because I did it in my dev line, but there's also a button here now that will tell you what version you are in. That way, if there's an issue, we know where to start looking. You then have report a bug, request a feature, look at my Trello board, video documentation, written documentation, and my Discord. And then if you want to support me, there's ways to do that down here below. So that is all my scriptable tools, and that is everything that there is to know thus far. Thank you so much for watching. Please make sure you like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next episode.